This episode of Bonded Voices is brought to you by iCoat Products. iCoat Products make living spaces beautiful with decorative concrete and epoxy products from iCoat. Visit them online at www.icoatproducts.com. Enter the coupon code BV1, Bonded Voices 1, and get 12% off at checkout.
Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier.
Today we're going to jump right in. Can we believe anything anymore?
No.
No, well, that was quick. And thanks for joining us today.
Exactly.
That was a quick episode, guys.
As a quick sidebar, I'm Ian.
I'm Greg.
This is Lauren.
And welcome back to Bonded Voices.
So, specifically the Uniparty. The concept of, are the Democrats and Republicans, sure, wearing different suits, arguing from different sides, but they're all hanging out together in the Hamptons. They're all vacationing together. Are they really separate? Or are they just them against us?
Is this big theatre? Are we watching
Absolutely.
just like, is this all smoke and mirrors, get us all ginned up on one side, and then the other side gets ginned up, and then you see them all hanging out, laughing and joking and patting each other on the back?
Let's put it that way.
Look
forever.
what we pulled off. Ha ha, we smoked them.
And look, they call it politics, but for some reason, like, I don't see that's the way politics is supposed to be. It's, I know when a war's over, you're supposed to agree to disagree and move on, but politics it's ongoing. It doesn't end.
So, when do we think this might have started? Because if we go back generationally, this behavior's been going on for quite some time.
Yeah.
Where there are people that are theoretically absolutely opposed in viewpoints, but yet, oh, that person was great. They crossed the aisle and we found common ground. But did they find common ground to help us, the citizens?
But
or was it to help themselves and their group?
But I think we want a government that it works together, but I think what happens is we're really looking at these different parties and they're just two big conglomerate corporations at this point. And they're really just divisions of the same corporation.
And the reason I think this is a burning issue with a lot of people is because they see what's going on at the moment with Musk and Trump. They look at what's going on with the collusion between different politicians within the government over different bills. There's promises made on both sides that never get kept. And at some point you say to yourself, okay, are we just being played for fools?
I think that's politics in general. That's government in general. And maybe I have just a dystopian view of government, but if you think about it, like, you know, we want our government to, both sides to get along, but they're getting along and not getting anything done. That's the end. The end goal is we want them to, you know, don't kick the can down the road, make change, but they're never making change. It's, we're going to do this, and it just kind of stays the same. That's where I think it stays. We have these monolithic parties that don't actually do any work, and they keep out the candidates that would actually do some work.
Yeah.
And that's the reason everyone hated Trump, is because he was outside of that bubble.
But now everyone's wondering, is he just inside the bubble and it's all been...
Well, but why, though? He hasn't done anything to say that he's a uniparty type person.
Well, here's what I've heard. He started off as a Democrat. He's got pictures with buddy with Hillary and Bill.
Yep.
He's got buddy pictures with Obama, Oprah. And then all of a sudden he becomes this, you know, fire rod on the right, and says things about people that you really have to think to yourself, if someone said the sort of things he says about Ted Cruz's wife, he said she's just butt ugly. And him and Ted Cruz are good friends now. But it makes you think, was that theater?
Well, all politics is theater. If you have to believe that they're only doing things to get reelected. It's not, there is no politician. And I would say that Trump is the one that does the most to get things done. Because look at what he's done in the last 100 days, the last whatever. It's been over 100 days, but look what he's done. That's more than any other politician's ever done.
Yeah, but he's not running for re-election.
Right. But either was Obama, and it was lame duck. Didn't do much.
Yeah, so what's interesting is some of the people that you talk with say it was a blessing that Trump didn't get the job and Biden won, because it gave Trump 4 years to prepare and be able to hit the ground running.
I'd agree with that.
And so what has changed so much that the perception, was that a false sense of excitement of, you know what, the first 15 days he's loaded for bear and all these changes are going to happen. But now some of those people that were so pro that situation and saying he's changing the world are now the same people that are saying, is he really doing anything? He hasn't released the Epstein files as of recording this.
Right.
He hasn't done all these things. So what has changed in American society for the people that were so much in support of Trump to turn their backs and say, you know what, it's a uniparty?
So all this emanated from an email we got on the Bonded Voices website. There's a friend of mine, just call him Jim from New York, and he was the one that said it to me. He said, you guys need to cover this because this is all bullshit. And this is just uniparty bullshit.
Technical term.
Yeah. And I think he's got some merit because, I've talked to him before about even the moon landing, right? To me, I'm still stuck on this because I look at that and go, okay, in 1968, we got to the moon.
And we're back to the moon landing.
It all circles around the moon.
It does. It goes like that.
Does it circle?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just a soundstage.
That's right.
Right. And you then look at things that COVID, was that really what it was? Not sure. Probably not. The JFK thing, even people on the hard left were calling that was an assassination outside of just Oswald. There's Edward Snowden. The list goes on and on of things that is the government hides stuff from us. We don't get the truth. And then you get a politician who runs and says, I'm going to expose all these and I'm going to bring politics back to the people.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a president who got the House and the Senate. He's even really got the Supreme Court. And we still have all of these things hidden from us.
Yeah, but so let's just go out and follow that one through. If we got the Epstein files, we got the JFK files, would that really... those are kind of fluff things.
Well, they're promises.
Yeah, but no one believes a politician that makes a promise.
See, that's an even bigger problem. Because then if they all are of the same stripe, then maybe the uniparty is an actual thing.
Well, I don't think that's a definition of a uniparty. To me, it isn't. A lying politician, if all politicians lie, that doesn't make them of the same party. But if they collude to make sure... Yeah,
that's the basis of it. They collude. Right. They're playing a game with us, but all in bed together.
To me, lying isn't colluding.
Wait a minute. You're not actually saying that politicians collude?
Oh, yeah. 100%, man.
Okay, so those that make, what's the congressional salary, $170,000 a year, and they become, as a freshman,
millionaires
with $0, and now they've been in office for a couple of cycles, and they're multi-millionaires. They're just really good at managing money.
They are excellent stockbrokers.
Yeah, so they're not doing anything to defraud the public. I mean, think about insider trading. How long has that been a point of contention on both sides of the aisle? But yet there's still nothing that's stopping it.
Insider trading does defraud the public.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a friend audited back in the 90s over, I think it was like $5,000 worth of income. And they went through every receipt. For $5,000, but yet we've heard all this story about trillions of dollars being stolen and billions being found, and Black Lives Matter having multiple homes and breaking the contracts, and there's nobody in handcuffs. And I think this is where what fires people up about this and makes them think along the whole Uniparty thing is that all these accusations that have been Trump, and even the people on the left would say this, Trump was prosecuted and convicted how many times, and he still never ended up in jail.
Right. Mm-hmm. So here's the question. If you want all these things changed, do you want it done by executive order, or do you want it done by Congress doing their job?
Well, if you want it to stay,
okay, so
it has to be Congress.
Okay, so then you can't say Trump's the lightning rod for this Uniparty, because he can't technically make the changes that you're wanting.
No, I don't think it's that's it. And I don't think it's about assigning anyone that mantle. I think it's more a case of when politicians who you go out, and I've worked for different politicians on different political runs, and they promise you things, and then all of a sudden all those things are just forgotten. They got elected, and they go out, change is hard in Washington.
I think a better metric is finding the campaign promises that have been kept. That's a lot,
That's a smaller list.
Oh, definitely a smaller list.
Well, and then you ask yourself, and here's the logical steps in that, right? Which is, if they're not kept, and yet they have the ability to have in the House, the Senate, and the presidency to push those things through, things that people went out and voted for. Okay, why? Is it because it was a setup from the beginning just to...
But again, you have to say it. The Congress has to do their job. That is, and the way it's been built is to make sure no one gets anything done quickly. That's the reason Congress has been created this way. They didn't want rapid change. If you read the Federalist Papers and you go back to the original founding of why we have a Senate and we have a House, it was to slow down rapid change. So we don't have 2 years, it's this, then another 2 years we change, and another 2 years and change. It's meant to be decades long change.
Okay, so there are things that the Congress has to change. So you get people like Julian Assange, right? He's releases information on the WikiLeaks files. Something in there was so sensitive to the government that they went to hell and high water to make his life hell. Like, it wasn't top secret information, but for some reason, they wanted everything. They want to know everything about it.
Well, I thought it was secret information that was released,
but I don't think it was classified as in came from I think there was something more to it. But this is the thing. It was released, and it wasn't a bombshell. Didn't change the world. He is the number one target for the government, and it makes me think they want to make a point of saying to people, the information that we keep as the government that you don't get to see, and you'll never get to see, and if you do, this is how we're going to come down on you, because we want to make sure that you, the plebs of the public, understand that there's us and there's you, and we will keep this stuff closely guarded. And they can say it's national secrets and national security. Bullshit. That's the fourth bullshit now. Yeah.
The bullshit meter is going off.
But see, and this is what I think fires a lot of people up, and especially people who put their time and energy in for campaigns, think to themselves, and look, I've heard Democrats say, the whole Biden thing makes me wonder, were they playing me for a fool?
Well, but so let's drop back to Uniparty. So how does that help a Uniparty?
I think ultimately the benefit to them is that they can push through the things that they want, like the Patriot Act, surveillance acts, data mining. If you go on, and you could actually find this, I think it was $6.5 billion of the US government's money was spent to build data centers for Facebook, Google. Why are we spending billions of dollars building data centers for private companies? Data centers capture data. Okay, what data are they capturing? And then what's that data going to be used for? And again, it's like all this stuff on the fringes that gets everyone ginned up and excited around politics all becomes trivial when you look in at the deeper issues of what's going on.
Well, getting back to your point on the how does this solidify or support the Uniparty? Well, what it does is it prevents anybody else from being able to run. It prevents anybody else from getting into power. So this group, if they so exist, can control the narrative because, hey, Ian, you're going to go psycho. You're going to do something crazy with your people in South Carolina. And then in the meantime, Lauren and I are going to be working on this over here. And then we're all going to meet back together at the Hamptons in 6 weeks. Radio silence between now and then. And we're going to take notes on how we did. And by the way, we're different parties.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, I don't see current politicians buddy-buddy. Like, I don't see, House Democrats and House Republicans right now. Because if you look at the votes, it's really about party line. So, are they acting? At that point, they're not acting as a uniparty.
No, they don't. But they don't need to, because I think where it comes down to it is that there's always a certain amount of give and take. And I think with Musk's freak out and even Rand Paul's freak out, and I always think Rand Paul's a bit of a bellwether in Congress. The moment he's banging on the table, because he's kind of a principled guy, much more so than any of the others, right? And when he's banging on the table, you have to think to yourself, what the hell's going on here? And why is Trump all of a sudden, what is he racking up $5 trillion of spending within this bill?
Mm-hmm.
When we're supposed to, and at the same time complaining about a $36 trillion deficit, right? Debt. Again, there you go. It's like you start to think to yourself, what the hell's going on? And they've both been like, hey, you got 4 years. You spend what you want and we'll complain. Next one we get in, now we'll just spend and you complain. And they just keep switching that back and forth. And what I think it does, and I wrote this down the other day, is because I was talking to Oliver, my son, about this. There's really, to me, only two forms of a democracy where you trust government, or the other side of it is where the government's actually controlling you and you actually think you live in a democracy. Because what's the third option? We're supposed to be a country where it's the people are represented by these people, not those people are basically lording over us.
Well, then if they're lording over us and they were being controlled by the government, that wouldn't be a democracy.
No, it wouldn't. And I think there's a lot of people would say we don't live in well, it is a constitutional republic, right? But at the same time, with democracy overtones.
Right.
You feel that I think a lot of people would think of democracy as where you feel like your vote counts for something. And you look at what, even the last election, what was it, 64% turnout? So there's a good 35% of people who are vote eligible are just like, no, I don't care. My vote doesn't count. It's all a bunch of BS.
Or they may not even
Well, are we counting the dead people too that voted in?
I think count all of them. It's but yeah, it's this is.
Well, I've talked to younger people, and they really don't care about voting. They're like, whatever. I'll worry about that when I'm older.
I agree. There's those on there too, but I think when you look at people who have been part of the process and get disillusioned with it, I think a lot of them would say because it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, for them, the only thing that matters is, the latest trend on social media.
Right. The one promise that Trump's kept so far is basically the border situation. Mm-hmm. That's the one big one. All of the other ones that were important, all of a sudden have just been put by the wayside. And I think that there's enough people building anxiety and basically pissed offness out there the midterms could be a bloodbath for the Republicans.
Well, so here's the thing. How quick does something have to be done?
Well, now, I mean, we're the Burger King generation. We want it our way.
Right.
We want it right away.
And think about it. It was only, 4 or 5 weeks ago, Pam Bondi was on there saying, tomorrow morning I'm having on my desk the Epstein files fully unredacted. And she got, what a fool she was played for. Moving right along.
Yeah. Okay, so cue the Musk-Trump fight, and we'll move on from the Epstein files.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of The Truman Show. Remember that movie?
Mm-hmm. I thought that was a setup from the beginning, the Trump-Musk thing.
I thought you said moving right along from that.
No, well, that is the Trump-Musk.
But
so I think we need some input here. We've really been getting a lot of feedback from you listeners, and that's very valuable for us. We put together the 10 tenets of bonded voices. We want to touch on that in a moment, but just want to reach out to you. We'd love to hear from you. We've heard from a couple of people that have helped drive some conversation because we want to ask the questions you're asking. We want to foster the conversations to stay with our initial charter that we started all this with. So please write into us. Let us know your views, because you can see that we're not taking one political side or another with these last 2 points that were brought up.
Yeah, so info@bondedvoices.com is where you can write to us. And my question for the audience would be, do you feel you can trust the government you voted for? And I think that's on a national and a state level. Right?
So do you think that's a light switch, yes, no, or that's a percentage? So I can trust them 60% of the time, or I have 60% confidence in them, or is it yes, no? Because I think everybody's a percentage, because we have to be cognizant of the fact that those that were elected into the congressional side of our country, they have varying views, and they've got to worry about getting reelected in their specific areas. And so there are quote unquote rank and file Republicans that are not voting in line with Trump, and there are rank and file Democrats that are not voting in line with the Democratic Party.
Right. Well, the odd one. I think Fetterman's the only one on the Democrat side who's formally out of line.
Right.
You know, but and on the Republican side, you've got Susan Collins and you've got Murkowski, but with it being so tight, it does matter.
Right.
If you had a 10-seat majority, one or two, you don't care.
Well, but see, you'd want them not to follow rank and file. Like, you want them to be independent for their individual districts. You don't want them to go, well, I'm in Arizona, but Florida, everyone wants this new law in Florida, so we're just going to, but it's actually bad for Arizona.
Right.
So that's going to stop any fast movement of, well, you may think it's important here in Arizona, people in Florida may like, yeah, I don't really care. Or people in Kansas really don't care about the border.
So I'm going to ask a question that we're not going to be able to answer here. But so we happen to be living in Arizona. Our political landscape has changed, continues to change. The state went from red to blue to purple in the last 3 elections. So how do those elected officials know what their people want?
Very good point.
See, and I would answer that with, I think they don't care. I think they say what they said to get elected, and beyond that, they don't care.
Right. So is it the loudest voice? Is that why we're hearing all of these people getting so loud with regard to the riots in LA? There was an event in Peoria today where it was national newsworthy, and we've got our governor on the radio talking about it. But does it even matter? I don't know.
But it's also a case, and we'll wrap this in a sec with, but can you even believe it? Because there's some of these people are paid rioters, we know that, right? So then their heart isn't in it. Their heart's in being paid to be out there throwing rocks. And then you look at all the BLM rioters who were in one door of the jail, out the other door of the jail with money in their pocket. So you say to yourself, what the hell's going on? The local government's even corrupt.
Yeah, so following along that same line, so if the Doge program that Musk ran truly did its work that they have been working on, and if there is truth in how many of these financial organizations were structured with taxpayer dollars going to some shelter rolled back into some elected officials' pockets, if that money has been stopped, and now who's spending the money to pay for these rioters?
There was a big article today. One of the Walton heirs,
Walmart.
Yeah. So she's a very liberal supporter, and she's donating tons of money to keep these things going right now.
Oof, I didn't.
See, this is the crazy part, right? We've had, and again, this is that part about not being able to trust, because we've had so many of these things uncovered over the years. Nothing happens. But yet you owe a few $1,000s on your taxes, and you got a federal agents at your door.
So what you're really saying is we all need to be into politics so we can get away with anything we want.
If you can't beat them, join them.
That's right. Let's go.
So I'm running for
Bonded Voices 2028.
Exactly.
20. Yeah.
Okay, so quickly switching. We covered last week in our episode about the 10 tenets, and the first one we covered was the casual hello, and we got a raging thumbs up from people. The whole idea, first tenet, is we want you out there to engage in a casual hello where people make people feel known, human, noticed, and that's a big one. And then the second one, and we want your feedback on this, is developing the ability to be disliked, to free yourself from the prison of other people's opinions. And I think this one is great because I think there's so many people out there who are so hurt by, they hurt my feelings, or they said something mean to me, and they really spiral. The idea that you have to free yourself from being affected by other people's opinions, that to put you in a prison where you feel locked up, I think is an amazing place to get to, where you free yourself from that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there isn't that freedom. I mean, isn't that truly living free?
I think so. Yeah.
It reminds me of the idea of like when my wife and I were first dating, and I'd get the question, "What are you thinking?" Well, there were times that I wasn't thinking at all.
So you prove you were a guy.
Right. But in the early part of the relationship, you might be wanting to say the right thing, do the right thing. But did it really help us get to the point of a long-term relationship? Because I was too baited in what I was going to say. I was not comfortable freeing myself to truly expose my views because I don't want to be alienated. I really think she's great.
Well, and this was another thought I had on that, is the difference between a random stranger's point of view and someone who you wanted to be liked by, or you wanted to get to know better.
So I do agree with your earlier statement that there seems to be a higher occurrence of people getting offended very easily now.
Yeah.
That there was this living within some type of embryonic fluid where there were no evil thoughts and no one disagreed with you and we all got along wonderfully, and it was in some movie somewhere, or maybe all of the movies produced in the last 20 years. But that's not real.
Well, I don't know. It is in the corporate world. You do enough DEI type classes, and
then it becomes real.
It becomes real.
So can people in the corporate world take a safe space vacation? I need 2 weeks of safe space time. Is that possible?
I'm sure you could find a doctor that would write a prescription for it somewhere.
I'm working in the wrong area.
See, I just keep thinking of, remember the Seinfeld episode where Elaine was dating this guy and this woman came in and said, "You be careful about him. He's like cruel." And they found out what he did. And at the end of relationships, he said something to him. And when he broke up with Elaine, he said, "And you've got a really big head." And she's like, "That was nothing." And then all of a sudden, a bird flies into her head, and the guy goes, "Wow, man, he couldn't get out of your way." And the taxi driver's like, "Man, can you move? I can't stand the back door." And all of a sudden, she's like, "My head's really big." But it's that where people like take stupid little things, and we're now living in a state, as in a state of being, where these little things change people's lives.
So it also washes down everything. So if you can't have your opinion on spicy enchiladas because you're afraid that I'm going to be upset because they were too spicy or not spicy enough, well, then we're all going to live in this just where nobody's offended by anything, nobody's doing anything offensive. I don't want to, that's too bright of a colored car because I don't want to offend somebody for driving this colored car, or I don't want to have this front yard, or oh my gosh, I could never wear a tie that color. That would be offensive to someone.
It's cultural. That color is a cultural color, and it's appropriated unfairly.
So my son went to Bible camp last week. And he said that there was a couple of kids there who you could tell outside of Bible camp didn't have any friends. They were leaning on to the other kids at Bible camp like this was the best day of their life. And he said it was awesome. Everyone was really kind and good with him. He said, but he felt really sad that when that kid goes home and thinks he has friends because they met at Bible camp or they were together at Bible camp, and then he finds out that he's back to where he was, sort of thing. And he especially talked about some of the autistic kids as well, who really reveled in being around other kids, who all of a sudden he's like, but he goes, it'd be too hard to hang out with them, and it's not like we can take them out with us and take them in the car and all that. They sort of need parental supervision to a degree. So it's that whole idea, right, that you've got, again, people in the work world who may want to be liked by somebody, and they find out that the other person doesn't like them that way. And again, it's being able to not just break down in that situation, but just let it roll off you. Mm-hmm. I don't think it makes you callous. I actually think it, like you said in the beginning, it gives you a bit of freedom.
Yeah. I don't know. My mind goes to, it's possible to be in a situation where you have to completely morph. If you're not comfortable in having your views and sharing your views and having disagreement with individuals, respectful disagreement, we don't need to throw rocks at each other.
Right.
But the idea of morphing your psychology so much that you're exhausted when you leave and you get in your car and you're like, oh my gosh, that was the worst dinner party ever. I had to pretend that I liked whatever and that I believed that the moon landing was real. Or whatever it might be, bringing it back full circle. But to that point, you're not really living.
So with the with COVID and everyone started working remotely, people got to be more free.
Yeah.
Even though DEI started doing more uptick then, but now when everyone's going back into the office and you have to get along with everybody, and now I wonder if there's a lot more anxiety, and if that's part of the anxiety about going back to work is, oh, now I can't wear the tie that I really wanted, or I have to be careful of, the shirt that I wear because it has a band's name on it that is considered.
See, but I think freedom is not caring about that and saying to yourself, I'll wear what's work appropriate, but whether anyone likes it or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think that gives you a great freedom in life. It makes you sleep better at night because you're not laying in there wondering why that person doesn't like me or why they're being mean to me. But I think it's harder if it's someone like, if you had a crush on a woman when you're young and you get rejected, I think that becomes a little harder to, because you've built this up to be something that's not in your head before the actual starts to become a reality. But yeah, I think it's just a big one. So we've got those two. We've got the casual hello, and then basically freeing yourself, develop the ability to be disliked. There's nothing wrong. Not everyone's in the world is going to like you. And we see it from the letters and the emails we get. Not everyone likes us, and we don't care.
No, I actually lost sleep over John's email the other day.
At least it makes you think about it that night. I'm sure it did. Yeah, keep you up at night. Okay, so until next time, thanks for listening to Bonded Voices. I'm Ian.
I'm Greg.
This is Lauren.
And we'll see you again.